This episode is about the eventually consistent real world, to give some examples how the real world differs from the understanding how most of the enterprise applications are built, and where we can, as developers, improve on that way of thinking to make applications more suitable for the real world. However, imagine you are at a restaurant, and you as a customer, you're hungry, you want to eat a burger. So what do? You go to the waiter and ask for a burger. So, I'd like to have a burger, please. And then the waiter says, yeah, sure. Do you like something else? And accepts your order. And then eventually the waiter may take other orders, and they go to the kitchen and ask the chef, please prepare one burger. And the chef says, yeah, sure, and accepts the order. So far and so good. Now what happens? The chef finally discovers, oh, actually, we're out of burger. And this is the nice use case, but what if they discover they're out of burger, and then the chef has to deny the order and says, well, that's nice, but actually I can't prepare a burger. And now what happens? The waiter, although they already accepted your transactions, your order, have to come back to you and tell you, I'm really sorry, sir, we're out of burger and I can't accept your order. I can't make you one. So if you think about that, if you think of most of the real-world applications, then this would not have happened, because the applications assume that if you can place an order, if you can start a business use case in an asset transaction, then you can rely on it that it's actually happening, that you actually get your burger. But this is not how it works, right? So even though the waiter accepted, actually they have to come back and tell you, sorry, sir, it's not possible. And in most of the applications you would say, well, 400 bad requests, please leave my restaurant and go home. Well, if you're good at marketing, then you probably say, oh, actually, it's such a nice and healthy day. Would you like to have a salad instead? And you offer an alternative. And then maybe the user says, yeah, sure. But this is how it happens, even eventually. Even if the customer already placed the order, they can't be sure they actually get the burger. And this is pretty much the point of how the real world works, right? The real world is all about collaboration and communicating with each other, hopefully good intentions, and then eventually, if something goes wrong, dealing with errors. So what does that mean? On the way through the restaurant, the waiter has to communicate with all kinds of people, and they have to take a lot of things into account. So you just can't rely on talking to somebody in like a business transaction, and then the whole restaurant is more or less blocked, so they can ensure that you actually get your burger, because this is what would be necessary if you assume a fully consistent restaurant, right? So you go to the waiter, ask for the burger. The waiter goes to the kitchen, asks for a burger, says, okay, it's possible. The waiter comes back to you, you wait the whole time, and you actively have to wait, you can't go to the toilet. And then until you get the response, okay, actually it's possible, I'd like to accept the burger. And the problems arise if there is not one waiter, but tens of them. And then the kitchen also has to make sure that the number of burgers left is somehow tracked, and that they don't accept something which is not possible then. Because if you assume it fully consistent, then you would have to rely as a customer that you get your burger. And actually a lot of things may happen. So this is about the intentions. If you place an order, then that's it. You just placed an order. You can't be sure that 100% that you get your burger. And you only had an intention, I'd intend to have a burger. So you placed an order, but that's it. And then you'll have to wait, and eventually something happens. They either say, okay, sure, here's your burger, have fun, or they reject it later on. And this is about dealing with issues, because in the real world, and actually the same is true for IT systems, you don't know what happens. Everything could happen in between the order and you getting your burger. There may be a power outage, the chef may have a bad day and quit, and so on and so forth. So you can't build everything of that in. So what you do, you have good intention that things hopefully go well most of the time, and if something goes wrong, then you're dealing with that issue. And having that said, you dealing it by compensating use cases. So you wouldn't tell the customer, oh, it's not possible and we need that table anyway, please go home and leave the restaurant. No, you would have a compensating use case. For example, would you like to order something else? And if you think about the real world, then this is the case in all kind of use cases and businesses. For example, if you do money transactions and you mistakenly did a transaction, you can't delete it. You can ask for a compensating transaction, another one, an undo transaction that charges exactly the same amount of money back, but you can't just delete it. Or if you order something at Amazon, and then eventually something in the whole chain goes wrong, and then they tell you, oh, actually, would you like to have something else? We're really sorry, would you like to have a voucher or whatever happens? But you can't do this in a fully consistent way. For example, for Amazon delivery, right? If you would want to rely that everything from ordering some article until you finally receive it happens in a consistent way, that you order it and you only get accepted if they're really sure they can do it, then you would have to lock the whole world, including all the delivery stores and so on and so forth. So that just doesn't happen. You basically just doing good intentions, and then hopefully and eventually something happens. And the same is true with the trust on actually outdated information. So the information you rely on as a user is outdated anyway, even in a consistent system, right? Because if you read something, you first of all request a page or request some read state, and then based on that you do something else, you do another action. But that information may already be outdated, as there are other collaborating users. And so you have to deal with that problem anyway. And the same is true in the real world, right? For example, if the waiter in its internal cache, in its memory, okay, now we're out of burger. And the next customer comes in and asks for a burger, and then the waiter says, oh, sorry, sir, we're actually out of burger. Although in the meantime, the delivery trucks comes and provides new burger patties. So that information is wrong. And then the chef finally tells the waiter, oh, we have burger again. The customers can order them. But at the exactly same point in time, the waiter may have said, oh, actually we're out of burger, which is not true anymore, but this is how the real world works. So you have to communicate and collaborate with each other. You just have to talk to each other, go back, tell them, oh, actually now we have burger again, and so on and so forth. So this is to give a better explanation how most of the real world use cases are eventually consistent anyway, and they have to deal with a lot of kind of errors. And we as software developers finally build applications for the real world, right? So we have to take that into account. So all the things that may go wrong and so on and so forth. And the question is just how we want to model that into our architecture, because we want to be aware of these issues.